Check one. Check one. Alright, that sounds better. 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 Alright, well, how you doing? Oh, good Lord. Let me just make sure. How you doing? It just popped on that message. Audio stream's current bitrate is 0. So I don't know why that happens. But I just spent 10 minutes trying to figure out the audio issue. And I saw that message that time as well. Check 3. Trying to figure out the audio issue. Okay. And I saw that message. Alright, so hyping myself up. Good Lord, where to begin? So, one thing I could do is bust out a demo. And what port does this demo run on again? $3,009. All right. So I've got all these apps that I made, and yeah, I kept losing track of all the ports of the apps. And on Windows S mode, you can't just install Nginx. So I'd like forget that I have certain apps, and I'd have like a whole bunch of terminal windows open like this, and then just like, because I need like 4 or 5 apps to be running to get the data between apps, I'd have to like have all these tabs running. So the main ones that I run are notes, and then find a note. So this is an app that I have for sale in the Gumroad store. All right. So here's the Notes app. So I started learning Python about 5 months ago. This app is actually about 1.5 years old, and it's had 3 different backends. First, just a simple Node backend, then a Nginx WebDAV backend, and then a Python backend. So I just made a new file, called it current date. I added live stream. And then I've been using this notes convention for a while, even longer than this, but I need to actually import them from another source. So this is about the last 1.5 years of notes, just 1 file every day. And sometimes 2. I got an email importer, so like mobile notes or regular notes I had going on for a while. And mobile was just an email that I started on my iPhone, now iPod. And regular notes was just an email that I did from the desktop, and I just hit send every day. So yeah. Twitter, that's a fun one that I just started working on. I need to get that token from another source. So let's see what happens if I do Control N. So it wants my bookmarks, my DMs, my tweets, and user access. So I should have an app there to catch the connection, but I don't. So I actually paste into a terminal, but I'm not going to share it because I need to have my token. And then I'll copy the token out. Alright, so now Twitter's running. So now I can open that. Not found. What? Maybe it just takes a second to load. What's going on? Should be there. Oh, just because the URL. Boom. Very basic. But yeah, this uses the pagination API behind the scenes. And I only briefly started integrating the DMs API. It only gives you from the last 30 days, so I'm obviously popular. And I haven't done anything for mentions or profiles yet. So this is just very basic the main point of this was the pagination API. And I did the same thing with images. So same thing, here I've got a few different sources. My IG, so this is coming straight out of an Instagram export. And it's in no particular order. It does include archived photos. So this is like super early days. You can actually see, well, this is a Pi 4 that I'm using now, but it's the same size as what's going on here. And I've tried various little screen options for it. So this one's a little bit different because it has one big HDMI, whereas the 4 has two small HDMIs. And I did actually just boot this system up on a Pi 3, and it works. There's just something a little bit wonky about the networking. Like, it only uses my DHCP setting, so it keeps disconnecting. And it's also pretty slow, so I just went back to the Pi 4. But yeah, so I made this little images app, and this, you might be able to see, is using the same loading thing. So here's the full setup. This was when I had a whole cluster of Raspberry Pis together. Still using that same streaming box, that same HDMI splitter. This was cool. I had the load balancer on top, and then like each major project would have its own Pi. And this was when Pis were cheaper and easier to get. They were like $50 or something. So yeah. Yeah, I really hate being in this dusty basement. We got to get me a better place to work out of. Like, I've definitely... I don't know, I don't like being in basements. Well, everyone's got to tough it out. Yeah, I know. So, yeah, I've finished a big bunch of the receipts. Now I've got to get to flattening a new round and scanning. So, I definitely do a lot better working out of places like well, first of all, a private office. Even my apartment where I started this channel, I did pretty good working. But as I'm at a relative's house, it's just like, I think this was at the apartment. No, this is in a motel. Yeah, since I don't have a lease, and I'm very much unwelcome here, it's just like, the more I unpack, the more unwelcome I'm made to feel. And the more I talk about it on streams, like I mentioned, my relatives are watching, and then angry phone calls come, blah blah blah. Like, I mean, I'm basically probably supposed to be triggered to talk about it, and then when I have money, they're gonna sue me for defamation or something. Like, they just really, like, I've been able to see the body language since I got here. There is just a hatred for me. This is me before my glasses were broken. And yeah, this time of year, They say the veil is really thin this time of year, Halloween or today's Day of the Dead. Like all the ancestors, like, I don't know if you heard heard something drop as soon as I started talking about my relatives hating me. But yeah. Oh man. I don't want to like act crazy and talk about that, but here's one of my old apartment. So this is me right before I became homeless, doing a lecture. Oh yeah, see, I had the same sort of live streaming setup where I was just streaming my desktop and running a camera through VLC. That was fun. That was at the end of 2017, no, beginning of 2018. My cool little fake bricks. Same pie right there. Same case. Same keyboard. Right there. Still got the mixer. Still got the books. There's another pie. Oh, there's my tweet. So yeah, since I've been successful before, you know, and my relatives basically grew up with a single mother, don't really believe in themselves, don't believe that if they put in, you know, nobody sees how much work I really do. And you're not supposed to talk about how much work you really do. You're supposed to make it seem easy. So that's kind of like a contradiction that I have as an accomplished homeless person is like I'm basically, if I make it look too easy, then people will be like, oh, you're just like, few people really know how to get success and be wealthy. And once you have it, you're supposed to be humble, and so you're not supposed to talk about it. So I've got to like prove that I'm not fake, but also be humble. Well, how about you just stop talking about being homeless? You're in a dusty basement. You got something, right? At least you're not in Africa. For sure, for sure. The thing is, since I don't have a lease, yeah, I've got some kind of shelter right now. But, I mean, when I was a kid, my relative would start fights with my mom about the stupidest stuff, and I didn't get it at that time. And by the time I was 15, I was making enough money that, you know, there was not the same power imbalance. By the time I was probably 19 or 20, I was making more money than my parents. And so by the time I was 21 or 22, I bought a property and moved out. And so I never had to experience the power imbalance, which abuse requires a power imbalance. And so I was invincible to abuse. I could not be abused. And since I grew up seeing my relative mistreating my mom, but things were, you know, she threatened to leave a couple times. And now here's where my relatives are getting pissed because they're like, oh, just because they like family secrets. like, I'm a kid, I don't have any wisdom, and so they need to, like, be the police. They're a bunch of bored Midwestern people who, you know, have nothing better to do but, you know, sit there and judge me. They're in a religious cult as well, and I don't think the relative that I came from is part of that cult, but I don't know. And then, like, they may just be religious to be a cover for something like witchcraft as well. Because, yeah, I watched a bunch of videos about, like, science people are using witchcraft on you and stuff. And I grew up, like, totally not, like, I don't know if I grew up, but especially in college, I didn't believe in anything like that as part of the campus atheist and secular humanist group. And so I wasn't really an atheist, but agnostic is just like, there can't be evidence either way. And so, yeah, that's how I think. I'm like kind of like scientific and evidence driven. But then once I got into poverty, I'm like, it's so, I don't know, it just like feels like the probability leans towards there being a creator. And so I just roll with it. And yeah, man, am I getting signs of chronic stress. Like, I'm not going to like say what they are, but yeah, you know how sometimes like young women will start, you know, like beautiful hair on a woman is a sign of opulence because it means she doesn't have a lot of stress, for example. So if someone has beautiful hair, you know that they don't have a lot of stress. It's like not about the products that you buy for your hair. It's about having a low inflammation, nutrient rich diet, and then, you know, being able to keep your hair clean, you know, have a regular bathing schedule, quality soaps, etc. So how is this hyping myself up? How is this not going on a big tangent? Sounds like you're looking for pity, making a little pity party over there. Oh, it's crying rain. Don't you have work to be doing, you homeless bum? I know. How much do I get on stream? Like a handful of times a year. Weren't you saying that like 3 weeks ago, you bum? By the way, you know, everyone really uses bum and homeless person interchangeably, but there is a difference. A bum is a person who doesn't work hard to fix their situation. Like, you know, the most productive, hardest working, most well-educated, most competent person, and especially them, because they could draw envy, which brings attacks from people who don't believe that they can make themselves better and not need to attack people. So it's almost like the harder working they are, like if they're too hard working and they actually pulled themselves out of a poverty background, they're going to have like all the crabs in the bucket reaching for their legs trying to pull them back down. And maybe even other people who came from poverty too, who have some kind of poverty mindset like, oh, there can be only one, you know, need to like knock them down again. So it's sort of like homeless people could be bums, but those are going to be the ones you see. Like, they've got no shame. They're like, you know, they don't pick up after themselves. They leave all the garbage. They don't have work ethic, so instead of being in the library, they're out on the streets, and they're out on the streets drinking because they know that the cops aren't enforcing that. But then you have the other homeless people like me who are constantly in the library, constantly working 2 or 3 jobs, constantly like doing whatever they can. Like, why am I not just working a job right now? Because one of my old employers made reference checks impossible within my industry. So I stopped working within my industry and I worked basically service and labor jobs. And they've sent a private investigator to at least one, probably several of those job sites. They've got a legal complaint this thick against me that they can just, since the way I get jobs is to walk into the workplace and ask for the manager, their private investigator can also walk into the workplace, ask for the manager, and say, hey, are you aware that this guy is violent? Are you aware of this? Did he mention this in the interview? Oh, because, it's a liability to your insurance, Where do we begin with this guy? This was $125 to print out at the court. Can you believe that? It was more than that. Just that one part was $125. Plus another $47. So they got me $175. $170 in just printing the court documents. Good one, guys. That's a lot of food. That's literally several weeks of my life. So, yes, their private investigator has showed up to at least one of my workplaces a couple times. They've interfered, with the administration. They tried to have the administration set me up. So, who knows if they've done that multiple times. But, so I can't just walk in and get a retail job. Now we've got a loud car outside, totally random. Total coincidence, as I say. So, yeah. Can't work a retail job. Can't work within my industry. And that complaint was about me going on Twitter and talking about what they did to me within my industry. So, would they have messed up my service jobs if I hadn't talked about it? Hard to say. But yeah. So, one could make the case that I'm a bum because I can't work a retail job, or I'm not presently working a retail job, but I have. I've worked as a waiter, I've worked as a shopper, I've worked as a mover. Well, it sounds like you can't keep a job. Now, I've climbed my way up, got the experience I needed to get, and my last job started right when the pandemic started. And so, we were just in masks the whole time. It was an extremely weird workplace. And it also started within days of that restraining order hearing. And so I don't know if that background check pulled up that order or not. But the HR person she had glee in her voice when she told me. Anyway, I don't want to get into too many details, but yeah, let's just say people take a keen pleasure in being nasty to me recently, and this hasn't been my whole life at all. I've had jobs for 2, 3, 4 years, no problem. No problem before 2014, 2016. No problem 2014, 15. I did become something of an alcoholic when I lived in San Francisco at first, but it was a phase, lasted, I don't even think a year. I think by 2015, I was starting to do extracurriculars like giving talks and stuff again. I don't have my portfolio online anymore. That seemed to be an attack surface, and also it just costs money. And there are months when I can't even afford to eat. Oh, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Work harder, do affiliate sales. Good Lord. Like, I do have a lot of excuses. The thing is, not all excuses are invalid. And what does my life look like? Do I have a history of making invalid excuses, or really any excuses at all? Well, there's not evidence either way. Like now, if the private investigators went to all my past employers and I asked for like all the paperwork they have, they might be less willing to work with me. Like they might not really love me anymore if they're like, oh, you did all these bad things? I don't know, man. Just stay away. I'm going to get a restraining order too. So I'm like extremely hesitant to contact anyone. I've gotten fake contact requests on text, possibly on Twitter. Like, it's just extremely stressful to go into messaging people. And like, I know that some of my former coworkers are super into AI and machine learning, so this is something that most people don't have to worry about. But if there's a group of people stirred up against me who are into machine learning and AI and social media, and they can make a bunch of bots, like, I mean, these people are top of the game marketing people. So it's going to be really hard to tell the difference between a bot and a real person. And yeah, I mean, since following and follower lists are public, they can easily just like slowly encroach on your social network and get their accounts to be in your recommended accounts and things like that. So, oh, it sounds like you're super paranoid, but like, I'm giving actual ways that stuff works. I'm not like sitting here saying, oh, it's a government. Well, how is it different than saying, oh, it's a government spy satellite? Like, I could make, like for Waymo, I made a diagram of the different components of the system, and like each one is viable. You know, the management structure of what would make this possible is viable. Like, I've made observations of people harassing me in public. Like, I saw that picture of myself in glasses, and I don't have glasses on. That's funny. So yeah, this is supposed to be me hyping myself up. Like, so the thing is, there's this book that my past employer gave me, and it's called Setting the Table by Danny something. He's a restaurateur in New York. And, excuse me. Yeah, setting the table. So it's like there's employees who may have all the technical ability in the world and this and that. Let me make sure my sound is still good. It's going to be really hard to tell the difference between a bot and a real person. So someone could be, you know, if like all the skills you need to be a great employee are 100%, it's like someone could get 80% there with the best technical everything in the world. But if they don't have that people skills, then they can't make it into a top employee zone. Like an 80 is only C or B minus. seems a little low, but yeah, 90 to 100 is B to A. 80 to 90 is C to B. So yeah, 80 is like a C. So even if you're 100% best technical in the world, you can only be a C. And so that's sort of what that court document does, is say, oh, I don't have the people skills to get to where I was. Maybe people hired me because they were wowed by my technical ability, but I'm actually this, bigoted, narcissistic person with violent tendencies. And for a while, that's what they wanted to see, so that's what my comedy Twitter account was. So it gave them what they wanted to see, and so they used that to make a court filing. Oh, just, spinning a story to make it seem like, yeah, abusers always say I was joking, Abusers do say they were joking, I know. But sort of like there's valid excuses, there's also actual joking. So the thing is, if it's narcissistic people who are interpreting this, then they're never going to find it funny. They're always going to make the worst possible claims. And it is plausible that your actual joking was either covering for your own abuse or just not having the people skills, like not being able to read people. No, I can read people. Well, you make that claim, so prove it. Well, I'm pretty isolated right now from people that I could prove it with. So, and then my relatives are the types of people who want to see me as negatively as possible, will never see me positive, unless I'm rich and can do something for them. In which case, they're not welcome back. But, so the only people I'm around actually want to make terrible claims against me, possibly even for financial gain. Once, since I have the history of success, they know I can be successful again. And yeah, so I'm supposed to be hyping myself up. So, I mean, if I'm doing all of this work, making all of these apps, does it seem like I'm a bum? Well, no, but even the best technical person in the world without people skills doesn't deserve a job in tech. Who says I want a job in tech anyway? Maybe I just want to make tech. Maybe there's something called the creator economy that exists more now than it did in 2018 when I started doing this. More than 2008 when I made my first big open source app. Oh, you're so stuck in the past. Get with the present. The present is that you're a violent bigot. No, the present is that there are people who want me to be who want me to look like a violent bigot and act like they're scared of me as though I'm a violent bigot making threats, which I've never made a threat. Well, it was perceived as a threat. That is what the lawyer would say. So what do I say? What's something else badass that, try not to swear. Something else awesome that I've done. Like, not that I swear too much. It's just like, because of this persona, I got into the habit of swearing. And so, yeah. This is an awesome one. maybe it was 17. There it is. Let's check this out. You're going to see my other screen and it's actually going to record it. Oh, what a piece of crap. I haven't tried it with 2 monitors plugged in, so it's possible that that's the issue. Let's see if it gave an error message. So it should be streaming, but the bit rate or the frames per second is 0, so and it's got, yeah, so it's got a 32, yep, that's why. It's just so much data that it's overwhelmed. So you can see it does work, it's just overwhelmed because it's doing 2 screens. So that's cool. Let's just stop that process then. All right, let's see if the playback works. Seems like sometimes it doesn't close the file right or something. I mean, I just like did this extremely sloppy. So I know it can be made better. It's just like, got it working at a coffee shop one day. Sweet. All right, we got to restart it. This computer's only got 4 gigs of memory too, so we got to be conscious about how much is running. All right. Let's try this. Cool, cool. Hoi. Still got the same vest. Took care of it the whole time I was on the street. How cool is that? And you know what's cool, actually, this box isn't even connected to the internet, so I'm able to do all this without the internet. Here's a cool one, the shell. So this is mostly found MIT license, but I did set it up so that it used to only accept 1 shell running. Interesting. So yeah, it used to only accept 1 shell running. I forget what interactive Python's flag is. Womp womp. So yeah, this is using WebSockets, which I would change if I were doing it from scratch. -I might not be the right flag. Yeah, -I was not correct. Default interactive mode. So maybe it's just Python dash. Like I thought, because I'm not in a shell by default, I need to force it. Does not, so, oh, -I should be working. I don't know what the deal is. So the command does start. I don't think I've changed anything. It used to work. So that's actually polling the output. So yeah, I would have done this differently. It looks like the person who programmed this was kind of a newbie. But it was pretty much what I needed, and I got to see how it worked, and I got to update it so that it allows multiple shells to be running. Process is not defined. What? That's weird. So I like made it all work, but I didn't test running a command. Shell app. What file is that in? Line 128. Del tasks SID. What's it saying though? Oh, so that key is not there. So that was on line 123. Oh yeah. that should be process equal. That's interesting. All right, so stop. Hey, now it works. Cool, cool. Oh, you just scripted that. You just need to make it look like you know how to code, and so you purposely put a bug in there, and then you could fix it, and then everyone would clap for you. Oh, cool little homie guy. Oh, you're such a cute little homie guy coding in little bugs so that people can see you fix them. Hey, brothers. I would think it's cute coding a bug into an online demo. So yeah, hyping myself up. So yeah, it sounds like excuse making, it sounds like whining, it sounds like blaming, it sounds like making excuses. I think I just said that 2 or 3 ago. Yeah, this stuff is stressful, man. It takes, like, even to be as competent as I am, I may seem like, you know, average, but the fact that I'm under so much cognitive load, like, and I'm not saying that I'm the only poor person who's under all this load. So, like, part of the reason I'm so enthusiastic about making apps and stuff that work in low-powered environments and doing things in ways that are easy for people, I mean, dare I say, with low IQs, I don't even know what my IQ is. But, you know, to customize their own, basically, like, the way that I think about it is just like lowering the cognitive load as much as possible by making things like not change out from under you, like keep working if you plug them in, use like old and boring stuff so that, like, I haven't looked at a lot of new APIs, and they're on, like, you know, version 6 or 7, and I'm like, good thing I didn't learn version 1 like a year ago. I mean, that might be a little bit of an exaggeration. It might have been like 3 or 4 years ago. But if you're in a tough spot and trying to, like, boot up a business and you need IT, it might take 3 or 4 years, and, like, several of those months might be spent getting the IT set up, and then you might have to, like, do a bunch of other legwork and preparation work, like, for example, like scanning all these documents. Like, you might just, like, not have space for it, and so they might sit in storage for a long time. And so you come back and your software has moved on 3 or 4 versions. The stuff you set up before doesn't work. Like, that's definitely going to discourage you a lot, and then you're going to have to spend more time getting up to speed. And for companies who charge, like, software as a service, that's kind of an incentive to their target market, which are people with funding who can afford to then get, like, customer success, like you know, basically a contract that'll come with some development consulting, stuff like that, to help their team get up to speed quick. But like one-man shops don't have a team, and so you just want to use like super old stuff that'll just keep working. And so even the stuff I've used hasn't been perfect. Like this stuff started with Ubuntu 16.04 and we're now on 22.04. 22.04 I think is the first one with a 5-year support cycle, whereas before they were like 2 or 3. So I like applauded when I saw that there was a 5-year support cycle for that, because I'm like, 5 years might be enough. It's like, oh, but what about viruses and 0-day exploits and da-da-da-da? That's why you got to hire. Well, you know, most of America can't hire a team. So what's one way to work around it? You don't connect it to the internet, for example. Like you've just got a bunch of example apps and things like that, local, that don't need the internet, that are built on old and boring tech. And boom, you know, as long as you got something with HDMI, 7 years from now this thing still works. I'm sure the leaf blower outside is a total coincidence. Yeah, the neighbor always runs a leaf blower. Oh. Too funny, too funny. So yeah, this is like, how long is this stream going? Probably well over an hour by now. Oh, just shy of an hour. Cool, cool. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see if I leave it public. I might leave it public for a day or something and then take it down. We shall see. Because the thing is, I like to have like quality videos up for people to watch, but then I still like to do live streams for people who are there to watch it. So I don't know. We'll figure that out. I've got an idea or two for actually how to do that. So, like, I definitely could start another brand or another channel that's like just tech stuff, where I don't go into the details about being homeless. It's just like being homeless takes so much energy that it is a factor. Like, it does legit make you dumber, like by taking up so much of your energy just in like dealing with stuff like logistics that you wouldn't normally have to deal with. Like, I don't complain about having to work in a cafe, except for the fact that it costs me like $5 a day that I wouldn't have to spend. So that's, you know, 25 bucks a week, you know, depending. So it's like maybe I have to just pick days of the week where I don't do tech stuff, where I just like do my laundry, you know. But like the main way that I can really feel valuable is by coding. I mean, it just goes back to when I was a teenager in high school. So I know I don't have a camera that I can look straight into. It's a little awkward for me to look up at the camera. But yeah, hitting the hour mark, so I'll shut it off. And, you know, another thing we could do too is make like a clips video where I just like cut out all the whining and excuse making and blah blah blah. So anyway, if you watched this far, thanks for watching, and see you next time.